Okay, folks. So let's revisit the three reads protocol today. This week we are going to also revisit our original assignment for this quarter. You had to do what I called a baseline assessment, where you wrote an essay about Tobias Wolff's story called Say Yes. And this week I am going to have you look at that story again and look at your writing again, and we are going to revise that essay. Okay? So, three reads protocol. What I have done is I have taken three sections from the story that I want you specifically to look at. And I want you specifically to look at characterization, because the original question asked you to consider the character of the husband and discuss his personality, what kind of person he was. All right? So remember that when we do a first read, we read for comprehension, what's going on. And when we do a second read, we read for analysis. All right? So what's happening in the text? Where is it occurring? Who are the characters? And where is the turning point in the text? Is there some place where something changes? I'm going to highlight here, and let's read and let's talk. They were doing the dishes. His wife was washing while he dried. He'd washed the night before. Unlike most men he knew, he really pitched in on the housework. A few months earlier, he'd overheard a friend of his wife's congratulate her on having such a considerate husband, and he thought, I'd try. Helping out with the dishes was a way he had of showing how considerate he was. They talked about different things and somehow got on the subject of whether white people should marry black people. He said that all things considered, he thought it was a bad idea. Why? She asked. Sometimes his wife got this look where she pinched her brows together and bit her lower lip and stared down at something. When he saw her like this, he knew he should keep his mouth shut, but he never did. Actually, it made him talk more. She had that look now. Second excerpt. Anne, don't move, he said. Stay right there. He ran upstairs to the bathroom and rummaged in the medicine chest for alcohol, cotton, and a Band-Aid. When he came back down, she was leaning against the refrigerator with her eyes closed, still holding her hand. He took the hand and dabbed at her thumb with the cotton. The bleeding had stopped. He squeezed it to see how deep the wound was, and a single drop of blood welled up, trembling and bright, and fell to the floor. Over the thumb, she stared at him accusingly. It's shallow, he said. Tomorrow you won't even know it's there. He hoped that she appreciated how quickly he had come to her aid. He'd acted out of concern for her with no thought of getting anything in return, but now the thought occurred to him that it would be a nice gesture on her part not to start up the conversation again, as he was tired of it. I'll finish up here, he said. You go and relax. And the third excerpt. This is after she says, would you marry me if I were black? And he said, no. She says, but if we had met and I'd been black, he says, then you probably would have been going out with a black guy. He picked up the rinsing nozzle and sprayed the silverware. The water was so hot that the metal darkened to a pale blue, then turned silver again. Let's say I wasn't, she said. Let's say I am black and unattached and we meet and fall in love. He glanced over at her. She was watching him and her eyes were bright. Look, he said, taking a reasonable tone. This is stupid. If you were black, you wouldn't be you. As he said this, he realized it was absolutely true. There was no possible way of arguing with the fact. Dog, sorry. There was no possible way. I'll pause. Okay. He glanced over at her. She was watching him and her eyes were bright. Look, he said, taking a reasonable tone, this is stupid. If you were black, you wouldn't be you. As he said this, he realized it was absolutely true. There was no possible way of arguing with the fact that she would not be herself if she were black. So he said it again. If you were black, you wouldn't be you. So this is our first read, okay? So what's happening in the text? you're going to type what's happening in the text. Okay? Basically, there's a couple, they're washing dishes. They're discussing whether or not Black people and white people should be married. They disagree. Okay? Where is the text occurring? You're going to type an answer in their kitchen of their home. Who are the characters? Husband and wife. We know the woman's name is Anne. We don't know the man's name. Is there a turning point or a change that occurs in the text? You're going to type something here. Hopefully it's something to the effect of, yeah, there is. Okay? The turning point is where the man basically tells her that he wouldn't love her if she were Black. And that makes everything go south with the conversation and makes the wife very upset. Okay? So that's what's happening. Over here, consider characterization. What do we learn about the husband from the text, especially the highlighted sections? So if you were reading this yourself, I would make you reread every single word. But for the sake of brevity, to make this a little shorter video, let's just look at the highlighted text. Okay? So they're washing dishes right here. Unlike most men he knew, he really pitched in on the housework. A few months earlier, he'd overheard a friend of his wife's congratulate her on having such a considerate husband, and he thought, I try. Helping out with the dishes was a way he had of showing how considerate he was. Over here in the text, I want you to type a response to that section. Okay? So if I were typing a response to this section, let me tell you a little bit what I would say. This guy takes gender roles very seriously. If he's helping her with the dishes, it means that he does not see that as his job. He sees it as her job. And he sees it as something that makes him super considerate and a really, really nice guy because he is doing her job. Okay? And he really, really likes to congratulate himself on how considerate he is. He's like, I am so awesome because here I am doing dishes with my wife. That's what I would say. That's my perspective. Okay? Maybe your perspective is different. I don't know. Okay? My perspective is as a 46-year-old woman who's been married twice. I'm a 2-time winner. Okay? So when I look at this, this is what I see. A guy who doesn't seem to think that doing dishes should be his job. It's his wife's job. So he's going above and beyond by simply helping her wash dishes. All right? Remember that our own experience affects how we see a text. So my experience is affecting how I see this text. That's what I would write down. Let's look at the second highlighted section. Sometimes his wife got this look where she pinched her brows together and bit her lower lip and stared down at something. When he saw her like this, he knew he should keep his mouth shut, but he never did. Actually, it made him talk more. She had that look now. Okay, so over here, if I were noting what I noticed about his character, I would note he knows that when she gets this look on her face, that he should probably just not say anything. He should probably let it go, okay? In spite of the fact that he knows he should just let it go to avoid an argument, he decides to engage anyway. He knows that he never keeps his mouth shut when he's supposed to. He knows that he actually talks more when he should be talking less. He knows she has that look on her face right now that's signaling to him, don't continue this conversation. You are going to regret it. But for some reason, he engages in that conversation anyway, in spite of what he understands about his wife. Okay? So what is this telling us about this man? Is it telling us something about his decision making? Is it telling us something about how considerate he really is of his wife? I mean, he prides himself on being super duper considerate, yet he knows that what he's about to say is going to upset her, and he says it anyway. So if he's considerate, how does that fit in? Okay? Think about it. Next highlighted section. This is when she cuts her finger, he gets her a Band-Aid. He hoped that she appreciated how quickly he had come to her aid. He'd acted out of concern for her with no thought of getting anything in return, But now the thought occurred to him that it would be a nice gesture on her part not to start up that conversation again, as he was tired of it. I'll finish up here, he said. You go relax. Okay, so first he says, he didn't want anything in return. He's just being a nice guy, helping his wife with her cut. He doesn't want anything in return for helping her. But then in the very next sentence, he goes on to say he really had hoped, though, that he helped her so she would just end the conversation because he didn't want to talk about it anymore. So he tells her, oh, go relax. Not because he's really concerned about her cut, but because he's hoping that she will just go away and not talk about this uncomfortable conversation anymore. So if we go back up here, how considerate he is. He's very, very considerate. He gets congratulated on being a considerate husband. Is this being considerate of his wife and her feelings? Think about it. Write something down. Okay? Finally, this last highlighted section says, look, he said, taking a reasonable tone, this is stupid. If you were black, you wouldn't be you. As he said this, he realized it was absolutely true. There was no possible way of arguing with the fact that she would not be herself if she were black. So he said it again. If you were black, you wouldn't be you. So, what does this tell us about his character? Okay, he's telling his wife how much he loves her, yada, yada. They disagree on this issue of interracial marriage. Okay, couples disagree all the time, right? What he says here tells us a lot about his character. He is telling his wife, I'm going to paraphrase this the way I understand it as a reader, okay? The way I understand what he's saying is, you can be all of the things that you are on the inside. Your head and your heart can be all the same. But if the color of your skin changes, that makes you a completely different person. If you were black, you wouldn't be you. It's kind of like saying, if I got in a terrible car wreck and it ruined my face and made me super duper ugly, that I wouldn't be the same person anymore because I didn't look the same on the outside, that it would make me a different person on the inside. Okay, so what does this tell us about this guy's character? About the way he views the world, about the way he views his wife, about the way he views race. Okay, so you're going to consider those things and you're going to write it down in this column. You're going to annotate it. So you're looking at annotating for analysis. Analyze his character. What kind of a guy is this? Okay, how would you describe him given all the things that we have just looked at with a laser view just now? Okay, when you are finished with that, read it one more time. Read it one more time, okay? Considering all the things you've already considered, and you're going to answer these questions. These are our essential questions for the quarter. In what ways is this story influenced by the society we live in? Okay, how does our society, where we live here and now, how is this story influenced by that? Okay, what is Tobias Wolff, the author, making a commentary on? What does he see in the world that he's writing about right now? In what ways might this story affect the society we live in? So upon reading this story, how might it make the reader see the world maybe differently? Maybe not, okay? But how might this story affect society? How can understanding how the character is developed enhance my experience of this story? So how can you better appreciate and understand and experience this story having deeply looked at this guy's character and the kind of person he is? All right. How do my personal experiences shape the way I understand and interpret this story? So I tried to model this several minutes ago by saying, listen, my experience is, I'm in my 40s. I have been married twice. Okay. So I have some significant experience as a married person who sometimes gets into conflicts with her partner. So when I see this guy, my own experiences with my previous relationships is going to color how I view this character. Okay. And we all need to understand that about ourselves. How we've experienced the world colors and influences how we interpret what we read and see and hear. And finally, how can I challenge myself to make connections between this story and my own life? So what kind of connections do I see between, or do you see, because you're doing the question, do you see between what happens in this story and what you know from the real world? Either your personal experience or something that you've seen in the world in general or something you've seen in another book or in a movie or on the news. Okay, just connect it somehow to something outside of this story. 3 Reads protocol for today is to look deeper into say yes. And you're going to apply what you do here to your revision of your original baseline assessment essay, because that's the ultimate goal for the end of the week. We are going to revise this essay this week. I have assigned you a grade, assuming you did the essay, because several of you didn't, which means now you have to backtrack and start over. Okay. Or you know what? You could just start now, either way. Okay. But you still have to go back to the original assignment and use that document. But this is it for today. This is preparing you for the rest of the week. So please make sure that you pay attention to what's going on here and really, really think critically about this assignment, because it's going to be very helpful to you. All right. If you have any questions, please contact me. I want to point out, if we look at your news stream here, that I have updated my teacher contact info and schedule since we are hybrid now. So if you need to contact me to ask me questions about this assignment, all you need to do is open that document and find my contact information and get a hold of me. Okay? Email, text, call. One of those 3 things. Email, text, call. Those are the fastest ways to find me. All right? So have a great rest of your day, and also remember, Google Meets. Okay. If you need help with this, Google Meets. All that information is right here. All right. Have a great day.